All right, now we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mad LiberTEA Party. My name is Paxton, and with me, as always, is the very colorful Mike. And with us today, we have a very special guest, and we're very excited. Um, we have Mr. Greg
Excited.
Sadler with us today. It's Sadler, correct?
Yes, yep, you got it right. Hey, and I
Fantastic.
appreciate y'all for having me here.
Yeah, I'm super excited because you're actually, we're in the same state and everything, so that's super great. And I wasn't aware of this, but you actually deal with a lot of like my customer base and stuff like that. You got like the McLeod area, Shawnee, Hara, stuff like that.
Yes, yep. It's a funny shaped. It's District
It's
17.
very, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit gerrymandering probably going on there. It's an L-shaped region that runs from way up north by Luther, Jones, just a touch of Edmond, and then it
Mhm.
comes down to Hara, Choctaw, all the way over, and the majority of Shawnee.
I
And
gotcha.
I'm in Nuwala, so I'm kind of smack dab in the middle of it.
I know where
Cool.
Shawnee is actually.
Um, well, I mean, as we usually like to do with our interviews, I would like to just start with, you telling us how you got here.
Yeah, got to give
Sure.
us your coming to liberty story to start off with. Like,
Coming
how
to
did you start as a libertarian
how
or?
excellent question, and my story might be just a little bit different than some other folks. Um, a lot of folks came from one party or another, and they were active and involved in those parties, and for different reasons, they came to the Libertarian Party. I kind of started out maybe a little bit towards the Libertarian Party, where I grew up in the rural area on a cattle farm. Most of the folks in my area were Republicans, and when I was coming voter age, they're 18, 19, 20 years old or whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted something that was I wanted to vote for change, and that was right when Bill Clinton was starting his first term. That was my first chance to vote. And what I saw when he got involved was how, as much as they talked about change, there wasn't any change. Is the way I felt. It was the same thing. And at that point, I was an independent, and I just had kind of different ideas than I felt most people probably had. And to be honest, I thought I was the only one. I thought that, I was like, why does the left need to tell everybody how to live? Why does the right need to tell everybody how to live?
Mm-hmm.
Truth is, I don't really care. Just if you're doing your thing, go for it. I don't have a problem with that. That makes sense to me. But neither side was really saying that, and so I was kind of an independent for a short amount of time there after I turned 18, 19 years old. And then I heard a radio program with Harry Brown on, and he started going into everything, and I'm like, holy cow, there's other people like me out there. There's other people that believe that you should be able to live your life the way that you want to do it. And after that, I start, and this was at least in my area pre-internet, so the information you could get on libertarians was a little bit limited. But I started reading some of his books, and I was able to vote for him when he had Joe Jorgensen as VP. And I kind of just followed along, a little bit from a distance. I didn't know any local libertarians, and I really didn't get involved here in Oklahoma with the local folks until Chris Powell ran for governor here a few years back, and I got social media kind of helped out with that. And I said, I was like, holy cow, there's local libertarians here that I can actually meet and work with and interact with. And so that's kind of my story. I didn't really come from another party. I've been libertarian a long time. It's just I've got active in it recently in the last couple few years here.
I kind of relate to that because, like, I didn't really come from a party per se either. And then, like, there were a lot of things that I was just doing with my life. And I came across them, and people were like, oh, yeah, that's called this. And I'm like, oh, there's a fucking word for this? People freaking do this?
Yep.
I can do it with people. That's beautiful.
Yep.
So, like, I kind of relate. That's great.
I feel you. You know, I kind of felt like, well, I was just the oddball, and you know, when people discuss politics, there was folks on the left and the right, and I just kind of throw a random question in about, you know, well, why does it have to be either way? You know, that I don't agree.
Yeah,
I agree with you a little
all
bit, and I disagree with you a
cheese.
little bit. You know,
If it's
and
all or none, they both suck.
yes, yep. I'm like, you know, I don't think that we need to. It's not a binary situation. We can have something in the, you know, something different there. So. That's kind of a little bit of my story. But yeah, it was definitely Harry Brown, and then I've been able to, you know, follow along with Gary Johnson, and they're on through, you know. But
So
So
what
what
was it?
inspired you to run for,
He
office in the
cut
first
me off.
place? I'm
That's what I
more
was
important
gonna
anyway.
ask, though. We were gonna ask the
I can
same damn
answer them all.
question because
I
we're
can
on the
answer them all.
same path.
No, that's a good question. It's just something that I had been thinking about for a while. I like to see, you know, and a lot of times my shorter answer is that I'm tired of looking at a ballot with knowing that I really care to vote for. So I decided to run myself.
Hmm.
You know, and it really comes down to having a libertarian on the vote, having another option. In the district that I'm in right here, the current senator had never ran opposed in the general election. Obviously, he had a
Right.
primary with the Republican side, but he had his first two terms, he had never been opposed on the general ballot. And
Hmm.
my thought is, you know, I'd rather have a poor candidate go against somebody than just be forced to choose, make one choice there. You know,
Right.
I'm all about having different options. You know, I'd like to have people on the ballot that I disagree with. That, you know, at least we have more options. The more options we have, you know, kind of comes down to competition. The more competition you have, the better the candidate you're probably going to end up with. And that's kind of why I did it. I wanted this is my first time running for office.
Hmm.
I joke a little bit about that. I said I haven't been in an elected position since 1987 when I was president of my 4-H club. So I'm maybe I'm not that much of a political outsider, but no, I just wanted to get involved, give the Libertarian Party a little more recognition. You know, what's great about this election is that not for everyone, but for the majority of the folks, say in the Shawnee area, they're going to have more Libertarians on their ballot than they will Democrats.
Hmm.
You know, with Joe Jorgensen running, and we've got several other candidates that are on the ballot that you know, 10 years ago that would probably be unheard of, you know.
Right.
And so I just wanted to be kind of part of that movement to get the Libertarian Party out there, show everybody that there is a different viewpoint on what's going on in the world today, and it doesn't have to be a binary decision. You have to be left or you have to be right. And my thought with that is sometimes that plays into everyone's hand if you're part of the left or the right, because if you get in, you can say, well, I couldn't get this done, but I'm blaming it all because the people on the opposite side didn't work with me, and vice versa. Well,
Mhm.
you know, it's really easy to do that. Well, as a libertarian, I can kind of come in there with a different point of view and say, hey, you know, I'd like to move forward with this. Why can't we do this? We don't need to just sit here and not make any progress and blame each other, you know.
Well,
So
and also, I mean, like, if you're gonna be the reason why that other person's candidate doesn't win, at least do it with some principle, I suppose, right?
True.
the big thing that both of us being from Oklahoma and everything, the big thing that really bothers me is that it's a vastly Republican state. But if you actually get out there and start talking to the people, they're not Republican. They're 100% Libertarian. Like
Y-
9 times out of 10, it's crazy.
yes.
Uh, because whenever you start comparing the Republican, doctrine that they currently have, they're in the mindset that they actually were conservative back in the day and stuff like that, and they're going off of the old school Republican, and it's just not the case anymore. It's
And they're
a
looking for a
Democrat
fiscal
light.
conservative and things like
Exactly.
that. Yeah. And you know, of course, the old phrase is that the Republicans campaign as libertarians, but they don't act like that once they win the election. And you know, you're 100% right there. There's so many, and in Oklahoma, we are blessed to have a good Libertarian Party, because not every state has the support that we have here. We've got it's not a huge group, but we've got a great group of people in the Oklahoma Libertarian Party. I know you guys know them and everything, but we get out, we have events, we have, I go out door knocking. I've got people that show up and help me knock on doors, pass out my door hangers and flyers and whatnot. And it's a really good group compared to a lot of states that, we're doing well in that regard. And here in my district, there's a lot of, it's a pretty rural area, I should say. It's just small towns and farms, rural area. Those people believe just like what you said there, hey, we don't need the government involved telling us what to do, how to live. We're more than able to take care of ourselves. We'll help ourselves out. Just kind of leave us alone. We'll live our lives the way that we want to live our lives.
Right. One of the things, and I don't know if you can see here, but we have Jay from the LP commenting, "Saddle up." And I'm glad that he is on and watching, because I was actually going to bring up this is something that we actually fight with Jay on quite a bit with because you mentioned specifically that the Libertarians is able to bring a different mindset to the binary system. And I definitely agree with that, but at the same time, I think what tends to happen is kind of like the Thomas Massey type of deal, where and Ron Paul and Rand Paul and all these libertarian leaning people, where they're constantly just having to say no to both sides a lot of the times, and you end up in this gridlock. Like Ron Paul was known as Dr. No,
yes,
because he was having to say no all the time. So I'm curious as to how you think that's going to be different, and how you're going to prevent that gridlock, and how you think you can bridge that gap between both the parties and actually get some things done, especially being one of the would it be the only libertarian? I'm not even entirely sure.
I would be the first. My understanding is I'd be the first libertarian to be in the Oklahoma legislature.
Right.
So, and that question's come up a little bit before, and people have asked, hey, if you were elected, what would happen? Would you choose? Some folks want to ask, well, which side would you side with, or what would happen in an event like that? Would anybody work with you? And I guess my answer is, yeah, I could be the only kid in the cafeteria sitting there eating lunch by myself. Maybe nobody talks to me, but I think more likely than that, I think what would happen is, there would be certain, the good thing is that as a libertarian, I'm not the only people I'm beholden to would be the Oklahoman voters. That, I don't have a big organization or a lot of corporations backing me here. If I win, that's all. I don't owe anyone else anything other than the voters. And so knowing that, I think it would be a pretty easy position for me to say, hey, here's where I stand on these issues. If there's if they're putting something together as far as gun rights on the right, there's going to be no question where I stand on that. That's easy. That's easy. If you're putting something together with criminal justice on the left, it's easy for me to come in and say exactly where I stand with that, and I don't have to worry about being part of a party that's now going to alienate me because I reached out to another party. I know. To me, it doesn't mean a ton, but I know the bipartisanship. They like to say a bipartisan bill has been passed. Well, all it would take would be for me to join, either the Democrats on one side or the Republicans on the other, depending on what the bill was. And just like that, it's bipartisan, Or as right. Justin Amash kind of sometimes gets involved with the tripartisan, So I think that's the way it could go, is that I would be able to have an opportunity to be involved with some of these groups and these bills being set up, and and not be worried about any kind of a backlash because I am the only one.
So let me ask this then. What tends to happen, and we can see this on both the right and the left, is they tend to have these populist ideas where they start promising all these free things. How do libertarians compete against that? Like Calvin Coolidge is a great example, in my opinion. He literally did, nothing, and he's one of the best presidents in my opinion because he did nothing and he said to leave things alone. But when people look at him in history, and I remember my history teacher talking about this, he was a cliff note. It was like, yeah, he was a president, and then we went over because he did nothing. So how do you compete against these people promising the world?
That's the question right there. That's an awesome question. I'm glad you brought up Coolidge because he is my favorite. You know, his quote is that it's much more important to shoot down bad bills than it is to pass good bills. And
Oh yeah.
and that's exactly where we're at. You know, we're in a do something society or do something political environment where people want to say, hey, what did you do? Well, you know,
Yeah.
I step back from the situation and say, hey, what if everything was 99% the way that we as libertarians already want it? Well, then in which case we would have senators, folks in the House, things like that. At the end of their term, they really wouldn't have a whole lot that they've done because we're pretty much there. You know, it would be a situation where all you're doing is voting down bills that,
Maintaining.
exactly, maintaining, voting down bills that, you know, that are not good. And you're right. We have a system that's kind of like, well, what have you done? Well, that shouldn't be the way that we look at it, you know, because just because you're passing bills and you're doing something, it's probably making things worse than it is making things better in a vast majority of the cases there. And that's a real hard thing to come up with and say, hey, well, you didn't do much. Well, I didn't do any of the bad things. And, you know, the situation we're in now, I think there's enough things that we can do to you know, move along and maintain and hopefully get back some of our freedoms. I think right now we do have things that we can do. But yeah, you're right. You know, and there are legislators out there across the country that will come up with things that they think, hey, this is a good idea on the surface. Everybody's going to go along with this and I'll get this passed. And I can say, hey, you know, I was at the forefront of this and we got this passed. Whether it's any good for the country or not, sometimes doesn't really matter to them, as long as they can say, hey, I did this. And so that you're right, that's a very difficult thing to, you know, be on the other side of, where you have to say, hey, I'm not doing anything because here's the reasons why this is wrong. And a little bit like Justin Amash does a lot of times, he explains why he voted the way that he did. And
He's
a lot,
really good about that.
yeah, he's excellent about that, being transparent and saying, hey, I know this bill seemed somewhat popular and on the surface it might seem good, but here's why I did what I did. And hopefully you can, people will grasp that and say, okay, all right, this on the surface, some things look better than they really are. It's a total, but you're right. It's a very difficult thing, and it'll be a total mindset change for a lot of the population.
Do you think it's especially difficult right now, running as a libertarian with how polarized things are? Like, it seems like if you are, you know, either Biden or Trump, you might as well just choose sides in the Civil War. You might as well either put on the blue jacket or gray jacket.
A little, you know what? 2020 has been a challenge for all of us, and there's a lot of things that happened this year that I have never thought that I would ever see. There's been some things that, you know, and I decided to run at the end of 2019, and that's when I made my decision to run. I had no idea about COVID-19 or any of this. There's been a lot of challenges there. On the other hand, sometimes it does, although I hate it, it's come to this, that we can say, hey, you know, libertarians have been saying for years, hey, the government's out of control. They're taking control of X, Y, and Z. If you let them do this, they're going to, if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. And
no, they wouldn't do that.
And everybody
It
would,
was one time, man.
and everybody would say, oh, you're being paranoid. They would never do this. They would never do that. Well, you know, fast forward to 2020 this summer, all of a sudden you can't get a haircut. Folks can't go to church. Hey, it's kind of looking like we were right, doesn't it? You know,
did you see in New York, they were rounding up Jews protesting?
I saw that.
Are you fucking kidding me?
That's a real thing.
That was
Orthodox Jews, and they were rounding them up for protesting because they wanted to go to service.
Yeah, they want to go to their service.
Tell me they didn't fucking throw
like
gas.
No, I'm pretty. I'd have to look up the article.
That they did not.
I think
They
some
didn't
were
gas
arrested.
them. They
No, no, no.
arrested them. Yeah.
I think there were some that were arrested, if I remember right. Yeah, yeah. Which
That's
uh,
horrible.
Yeah,
I
people
can't.
doing like hymns in the street and getting arrested, or that time they were trying to do like driving church stuff, and
Yes,
they were arresting people or getting their driver's plates,
yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, there was. I think that was a church in Mississippi that the pastor said, "Hey, we're just going to do a drive-in. You tune to station
In
whatever. I'm going to do
Mississippi.
a quick service, and just like that, I have no idea why stuff like that happened. It's just, it just proves that he has to, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and things can get out of hand really quickly.
The big thing that really bothers both Mike and I and a lot of people within our organization is, yeah, sure, they passed the law for that, but the police are following it. How can you not realize you're the bad guy going there and arresting people for trying to attend church?
Yeah, yeah, I question how what their thought process is behind that, because
Moreover, how can you support those people whenever, like, I don't know how people can be so blind as to say that we don't have to worry about confiscation of firearms, that the police would never do that.
Yep. And in the past, it may have seemed like there was a little credence to that, but this year has kind of proven otherwise, hasn't it? That even in your example there with the church, I would have to think, I believe that was a small town. The folks that were breaking up the service and threatening jail time with people, they probably had friends and relatives and neighbors that were there, wouldn't they? That's kind of what I thought, is that, in small areas, everybody kind of knows everybody. Why, it's a different story when they're in New York City, like you said there, but in rural areas, everybody kind of knows everybody. Wouldn't you, cut the folks, at the very least a break, but yeah, I don't know. There's been a lot of crazy things this year that like I said, I never would have thought that I've seen.
Well, I mean, it
2020 has
drives
been
me
rough.
nuts that like it's across the board too. Like the police are enforcing unconstitutional shit and behaving
Yep.
wildly inappropriately all over the place. Like even there in Tulsa when I was there, like they had an entire crowd of people that weren't being violent. They were being loud, but they weren't being violent.
Sure.
And then like one person threw a bottle of water, like a water bottle, and the police decided that that was the cue to brutalize and like gas and pelt a whole crowd of people that weren't doing anything. And
It
under
was
the
worth it. I got a
freaking
scar out of it.
yeah, and under the freaking, under the chaos of that, then looters came in and stuff. And
Yeah.
like we have police being the problem all over the place. How do
Yeah.
you feel about that?
Yeah. Well, that, and just to take it one step forward, there's been some ideas floated out there about passing bills that, if you ask me, they're infringing upon your right to protest. That's making it a little tougher to protest, where you can protest, how you can protest, if you can do it on public, city property, things like that, which I don't think have passed, fortunately. But which just goes to show that, hey, we're supposed to be able to have freedom to protest. That things have happened in 2020 that are definitely definitely things that we need to protest, and stopping some of those things like that's just ridiculous. And then it gets out of hand, because they say, like you said, the police come in and try and shut things down when they were being peaceful. Well, then now the peaceful folks have probably either left or been hauled off, and now the rioters and the looters come in. And so now we've just got a mess of two. If you ask me, we've got two wrongs battling it out here in the streets.
People who didn't need to be rioters that were peaceful up until a minute ago, and then you have the looters that came in intentionally, and it's a huge mess. And it always seems like, more often than not, it's the police starting all of this shit.
Yeah, and it's a bad deal. We've had so many things happen. The situation in Minneapolis there. Well, that's a terrible situation to think that people aren't going to be upset. And if ever there was a a time in America to protest something, that would definitely be it. So you can't try and stop people from protesting that because they want change. That's not the way that things should be. That's not the way America should be ran. And then when you try and kind of put the clamps down on their ability to protest, that's just, it's un-American. It's unconstitutional. It's a lot of things that to me are just unethical.
Why do you think it is that the right so strongly supports the police? Like, you would think with their background that they would be kind of anti-authority, and especially with bad laws that are being enforced, you would think that they would be less willing to, back the blue.
Sure. And I don't know why that is, and it
You
probably
have to know everything.
That's one thing I pride myself on is
if you don't know everything. Oh my God.
That's one thing
You
I
have to
pride
be a
myself in
magic
is
8
being
ball.
able to tell you when I don't know something. But it is a difficult situation, and I feel that a lot of times, we go from bad to worse. So our government creates laws that are bad laws that are maybe unconstitutional, whatever they are, infringing upon your rights, and then they expect the police to go out there and enforce them. Well, that's not, that's number one, that's putting the police in a bad situation. But number
Right.
two, now all of a sudden, and then you get a few people that are all gung ho about, law and order and not taking into account the situation, the facts, people's rights, things like that. And then now you've got a situation where it's just two factions battling against each other, and nobody cares about who, what kind of rights people have or what kind of, are being infringed on there. And I kind of feel like we've done, obviously as a libertarian, I feel like we've gone a little far with the police and the militarization of them. And certain things, they don't need to be involved. Unfortunately, they get involved with people that maybe have mental health issues. We need to have a different situation. They're not equipped to do that.
No.
And I always say that, I work for a printing company. I had to have a 4-year college degree to work for this company. At the end of the day, we're putting ink on paper. I'm not making life and death decisions. I make mistakes from time to time. Nobody gets locked in a cage. Nobody gets a gun pulled on them. Nobody goes to jail. Nobody gets shot. But yet, I just feel we need more training for our law enforcement folks. Not, some places have better than others, but we need better training because you're dealing with something serious here. Even if you're just a gun is pulled on somebody, I take that as something super serious there. That could, that is a trigger finger away from going south and having all kinds of problems. And we have to back away from that a little bit and say, hey, everybody has rights here. Sometimes I think we get too far gone in, doing a good job and accomplishing something. I do kind of I've kind of used the analogy that, if you ever watch these highway patrol chases on TV, every once in a while, they'll be, I want to say they're always in California because they seem to be in California, but, but anyway, every once in a while, they'll be chasing a suspect. He'll get into a heavily populated area and they'll just lay back and say, you know what, today isn't the day. We're probably going to know where he's at because we have a helicopter. We'll lay back. It's not worth it today. And sometimes in other situations, I think that's probably the attitude we need to take. Yeah, we want to get bad
Unlike
people off the
Florida.
streets. Yeah,
Unlike Florida, where they use people as like body shields and then
I don't know if I
the
mentioned
fucking
this.
hostage.
That they're pressing charges on that.
Good.
Yeah. Apparently the civilians that got injured and stuff like that, plus the hostage, their family are all getting together and pressing charges.
Yeah, it's not like it's not like the movies where you can just cowboy your way into stuff. If today isn't the day for it to happen, lay back a little bit, and you're gonna be able. It's 2020. We know where everybody is. Nobody's getting away. And if there's gonna be civilians injured or put in harm's way, I feel like you just gotta take your time.
So there's two big things that I want to mention with that, and the first being like the first thing you said is going back to the original point of like why Republicans support Back the Blue. I feel like it's because there is a very distinct split between protecting and serving, that kind of policing, and then law enforcement. Law enforcement is designed to go out there and intimidate, follow the rules, and do whatever is necessary to get people to accommodate to the laws that we've made. And then you have people that are there to, keep the peace and help the civilians and stuff like that. A agreed upon group that we as civilians have agreed that this is what's going to be helping the community and helping to keep it safe, because we can't all take the time to do that.
Sure.
But one of the big things that Mike and I talk about on here a lot, because I don't know if you've noticed, but we really don't like the police. And one of the big things is exactly what you mentioned, that having these laws, like just something as simple as pulling someone over for going over 5 miles per hour over the speed limit, for example, that can lead to a life and death situation over something very, very minor. You could pull over the wrong person that decides that they want to shoot this police officer, making more minuscule laws that are just pulling more and more people over with the intentions of getting more money for the state, mind you, when you're already paying your taxes. It's putting more police officer lives at risk, which to me would imply to the Republicans and the other people backing the blue that you would want less of that, because you're putting less police officer lives at risk and other civilians' lives at risk. Mike and I have made it a very clear point that if we feel that we're in danger, we don't care about the badge. Like if it's it becomes man on man on that point. And Maj 2 Ray mentioned this, and you were there, of course, and we've all made the commitment. When it comes down to it, we're going home at the end of the day, and that sucks to say, but that's just the reality of it. And I feel like the police officers need to realize that they're working with people that want to go home to their families.
Well, I mean, yeah, they get to come at the end. They get to come back and be like, "Well, I'm just trying to get home at the end of the day and shit." Yeah,
I fear for my life
too.
Yeah. So am I. Yeah, exactly. And it comes. Here's one of the issues that I have with it too, is that, and we've all had experiences with, like you said, being pulled over, and I've had people that were, pretty cool about it. I've had people that I was worried about my safety about, so it varies the gamut. I think the problem is that, if you're in private business and you have somebody that's doing the wrong thing. Now, here again, most things in private business aren't as serious as pulling a gun on somebody or shooting someone. But if you have a bad apple, if you have somebody that's not really following the game plan, say you work at 7-Eleven and they're doing the wrong thing and they take $10 from the cash register, well, they fire them and they move along, and it's not a big deal. But unfortunately, with some of the police unions and things like that, if you have a bad apple,
cops around like priests.
Yeah, it's hard to get rid of them. And then say I'm a rookie cop and I'm working with somebody that's older that is, that I see them, blatantly break some of the rules or laws and to do some things that are not within the policy. Well, okay, that'd be great if I said something about it, but that's probably not good for me because I know he's never going away. So at some point or another, I'm going to encounter him again. And he's also already shown that he's willing to break the law. So why, if he's going to break the law against other folks, why would he not break it against me? And so, I understand why people are hesitant to say something about it, because they know that, it's not like I'm working at 7-Eleven and I saw somebody take $20 from the cash register. I know, hey, if I tell the boss, he's gone. Well, it's not the same way here. He's going to keep popping up like a bad penny, and I may have to encounter him again. And that's a little bit of intimidation as far as, I already know he's a bad guy. He's not going to follow the rules. Why would he have any respect for me or my livelihood there? So I think we need to get rid of the qualified immunity. people have to be responsible for what they do. Just like any job, you're responsible for what you do if you're blatantly, being a problem. Some of the other things, get rid of the no knock raids, things like that. Asset or the asset forfeiture. I think that needs to go away completely, because we're treating police departments like revenue streams, and that's not what they were intended to be by any means.
A little counterproductive.
Yeah. Yep. We can't have folks out there, pulling people over with kind of in the back of their mind of, okay, hey, this is most likely I can get a ticket out of this, and here's X amount of dollars for our department. That's not what the police department was set up for.
I mean, that's the thing, is like a lot of people will listen to Mike and I and hear, the whole scenario of like, we're not going to comply, and if it comes down to it, we will have a gunfight with a police officer if that comes down to it. If it means that we can go home at the end of the day. That's what I'm getting at. Of course, that is not the, none of us want that. No one wants to be in that situation.
Yes.
No one wants, we're Boog people. No one wants this, the Revolutionary War to happen again. No one wants that type of thing. War, combat, death, all that stuff is terrible, terrible things. Anyone within the organization that are like excited about those things, you'll see get pushed out of the organization, because we don't want those type of people.
Put up mercilessly
until they leave. Yes. Because that's not what it's about. We do not want things to be violent if they don't have to be. One of our Mr. Galaxy was just on a show, was it last week? And he was one of the few that was willing to get between the Proud Boys, and I think it was Black Lives Matter, the only person there standing between both groups and keeping them peaceful and civil, so they're not at each other's throat the entire time.
Somebody made a meme out of it.
It's pretty great. It's pretty good. The point that I'm getting at, though, is at the end of the day, when you really sit down and listen to like what we're talking about, we want the police to be safe as well. We want less laws, because they're pulling less people over, which means less exposure to combat situations.
I prefer there just not be any.
Sure. Well, I agree with you there. I'd like them to focus on the real crimes out there, the murders and the rapes and things like that. Investigate those things, go after those things. Don't worry about pulling someone over because you think they might have weed in the car, or they didn't have a seatbelt on, or things like that.
I'm pretty sure we could get the response times down significantly if you weren't having a police officer sitting on the side of the road catching me for going 5 to 10 over.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Yes, exactly.
Now, that being said, let's talk about like the actual election. It's like the presidential election, everything.
Sure.
Are you supportive of Joe?
Oh, definitely, 100%. Yep.
Okay.
I've met her a couple of times. She came through Oklahoma City, and then she was also at the Oklahoma Libertarian Convention in Tulsa. I think back in, I want to say seems like it was a long time ago. I want to say it was May or June.
That sounds about right. I don't think we were able to make it, unfortunately. Big sad. We were going to make it to the original one, but then the COVID stuff messed up the timing and all that stuff.
Yeah, it had to be rescheduled. It turned out it was a great venue and a great event, and it was really cool that she was able to come through and speak to everybody. But yeah,
Jay says.
Okay. Oh yeah. Seems like it was a long time ago. I don't know, but this is 2020. We're just making it day by day here.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, yeah, no, and I wish that she was able to be on a few more. I know she was on Fox News, I think last night or the night before. I wish she was able to get a little more media coverage, but because the folks that are unaware of her, once they're made aware of her, I feel like a pretty high percentage of them really like her.
She's just super smart.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah. There's no question about that. And, she takes a little different approach on things that people, there's so many people, and kind of the unique thing about being a libertarian and running in my district is that I've had people come up to me that, or I've come encounter with that on the left that said, yeah, we're going to vote for you. And I've had people on the right that say that they're going to vote for me. Different things that as a libertarian, I have in common with, different issues that I agree with on both sides. And then when it comes to Joe, she kind of brings everything together there. There's something in common that people can grasp onto from both sides. And I guess what I was getting at there was a lot of people, when you ask them about the presidency, who you're voting for. Well, most of them will tell you who they're voting for. And if it's Biden or if it's Trump, they're kind of gritting their teeth a little bit and saying, yeah, this is by no means my favorite choice, but I'm going with them. They're not exactly ecstatic about their choice there. You've got two candidates that, I know Trump has his part of the Republican Party that are pretty hardcore with him, but there's a lot of Republicans that are kind of like, yeah, we're voting for him, but we don't really, but it's only because we dislike Biden that much. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I feel that's the way the majority of the folks are going, is that they're just sticking with their party. They don't like the fact that, yeah, this is all I've got. And, so it's kind of cool to be a libertarian and say, well, here's who I'm voting for. I don't have any qualms about her. I don't have any issues. I don't have to, hold my nose when I go to the voting booth. I've got somebody I can talk about here without having to kind of, a little chagrin there.
One of the big things about her.
Oh, I was going to say, what do you say to the people who think that she's more like a centrist than a libertarian?
I haven't had, I've seen some of that on Twitter and social media and stuff like that. I haven't heard anybody say that in person so much. I don't know. I think she's pretty libertarian for me, and like I said,
kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah.
Like, if we're pro-gun but pro-weed at the same time, people will associate that with centrism. Like,
a little bit.
Well, I think it's tied more into the thing where they're like, oh, they picked someone safe again.
Yeah,
like they didn't pick.
There's a little bit of that. True,
but I bet she knows where Aleppo is.
Who was just safe.
True.
I don't know. I hate to say it, but I've kind of fallen out of, like, I wasn't gonna vote in the Nationals anyways, but like I've kind of fallen out of love with her, especially after the issue with them putting the SCOTUS suggestions up. That kind of fucking soured the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, true, and I guess I'd take the opinion that those
Trump gets 1,000 bad tweets, but Joe tweets 2 bad things, and people lose their mind.
Yeah. I look at it; those aren't the folks I would have chosen, but
she's not as bad as either of the two. But I'm not entirely sure. I've gotten to the point where I don't actively endorse anymore, especially after what Spike did.
What was the Spike? Remind me of the.
So this is a newer thing. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if do you know who Mike Dunn is?
I'm not aware of him. No.
Okay. So yeah, I mean it's a smaller thing, but Mike Dunn is a big person within the Boog people. Boog, he's a big voice for him. Anyway, he attended a Spike rally, a libertarian rally, where Spike Cohen was at, and he was armed. He wasn't the only person that was armed there. Police came up to him, told him to disarm, and then he told him he wasn't going to comply. Spike came up to him and basically started pleading with the police, and was essentially just asking, like, well, if he's will he comply? If he complies, will you guys let him go, and yada yada yada. And
Sure.
Our boy Mike Dunn looks poor Spike in the face and goes, "I will not comply," and gets arrested. So that was a big thing for us because we both really liked Spike.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and it was really like, oh man, that fucking killed it.
I get why Spike did it. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But I feel like, honestly, he would have got a lot more clout if he would have just said, "I'm not going to comply either," and got arrested. I think that would have made news, and I think it would have got more support from the libertarians and the Boog people all in one.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, I did know, I was aware of the story. I guess I didn't know the gentleman's name there, but yeah, good point. And I'm sure what Spike was doing was just trying to do what he could to kind of stop any issues so the event could go on without a hitch. Yeah, in retrospect, yeah, I'm sure he could have got if he would have went along with him and got arrested, that sure would have brought a little bit of a media attention to it, you know, and you know, but
Yeah,
my guess
after
is
it was
the heat of the battle. That was the decision he went with to try and, you know, keep him out of trouble there. But it is what it is. I'll give my, you know, when
You can't win them all. I mean,
true, you can't win them all. And hey, you know, and when you're a candidate, you're gonna. I know this myself. You're gonna make mistakes, and you're gonna say, "Oh, I probably shouldn't have done that," or "I should have said
that
this,
was a
and I
pretty
forgot to
big
say
one.
that." Yeah, no, true. When he was
Because like he touts this big talk and everything, and when it was on the line, when it really fucking mattered, not just him, but all of those libertarians around them. They all just fucking stood by and let it happen. No one did anything. They could have just peaceably gotten in the damn way, but as many people were standing there
sure,
fucking scratching their goddamn asses. If you
yeah,
really like, they talk about liberty and about the 2A and how it's fucking shall
the
not
come and take
fucking
them
be
thing is the
infringed
biggest
and
thing
come
for
and
me.
goddamn take them. And
sure.
then when it's fucking time, they all stand there derping around like freaking morons.
Yeah. No, you're right though. It's one thing to it is one thing to say
And
to
I get
talk
going
the talk
easy
and
on
walk the walk,
normal
but
people, but he
sure.
wants to be a leader under the banner of liberty.
Yep.
But anyway, Greg isn't his
I'm sorry.
spokesperson, so like,
I
don't be mad
just
at Greg.
I'm just curious about what you thought. I'm not
What
mad at
no,
Greg.
and I know. No,
No.
actually, I was gonna, you know, in
I'm
this,
still pissed
this,
off at Spike, but I'm
but
not
yeah,
mad
all
at
right, all right.
Greg.
Well, I'm gonna take the other side on Spike there. What I was gonna bring up was, you know, prior to this, you know, this incident anyway, you know, when the VP was being, you know, once Joe was chose and the VP was going to be chosen, I was, you know, I thought, man, we've got some great VPs. There's 3 or 4 that I really knew. I thought pretty well. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a great ticket. And then, and I'll be 100% honest with you, when Spike won the VP, I really didn't know much about him. And I know he has his own
Me either.
podcast and stuff, but and so I knew very little about him. And at first I was like, oh, and so I kind of looked into him. But to be honest with you, I've been impressed. You know, we'll put that situation here y'all were talking about just aside for just a minute. But you know, after I started looking into him and some of the stuff that he said, I was pretty impressed with him. That, you know, I think he came out and said the right things, did the right things, you know, maybe up until this point. But I was impressed by him, and I kind of felt like the delegates did a pretty good job vetting everybody, because I really wasn't aware of him myself. But
That's
I
fair.
did feel like we had a handful of VPs that out there that would have been great, you know, either way. You know, the top 5 or 6 I thought were really good, were really strong.
We could rant about the
I mean, we
executive
could
office
rant
all
about
day,
who they
but
fucking picked all day, but yeah, it's
what I would like to get into really is like, what is your big like one issue
yeah, like
that
what's
you
your
really want to like
biggest,
hyper focus
most
on?
important?
Sure. And here it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Since this is a rural area, I'm just really pushing the idea that, you know, I don't think we've ever had a libertarian run in District 17 before. Is pushing the small government, the limited government. People out here just want to keep government off our backs. We'll make it on our own. We'll help each other out. We'll do what we need to. You know, cut the taxes, give people back more of their money that they've worked hard for, and let them live their lives the way that they want to live their lives. Gun rights is a big issue out here, of course. You know, they want to see a little more fiscal responsibility out there. They both the left and the right they're just spending money as fast as they can get it in, looking for new tax revenues, and that's kind of one of the things I've been pushing is that, hey, we don't need to spend any more money. We've already got enough in there. We need to start cutting the taxes, giving them back to people so that they can, so they're not so strapped for cash. One of the things I brought up a handful of little issues. As libertarians, we can't just go in there and say, hey, I'd love to say, hey, we're getting rid of income tax tomorrow. We're getting rid of this. We're getting rid of this. We're getting rid of this. It does have to be a little bit baby steps along the way, but I feel like there's some real steps that we can take that'll make some progress, and the people will see. You kind of have to come up with something that works and that people see once you enact it. One thing I like to bring up is that Oklahoma is one of the few states that taxes groceries. We say that we're trying to get the economy back on track, and people have lost their jobs due to the pandemic. The economy's in a little bit of trouble here and there, but by God, we have to charge a tax when you buy a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter. That just doesn't seem right to me. 37 other states don't charge tax, and some of the ones that do charge a lesser tax on those groceries. Mm-hmm. And it is the way that the laws are structured in Oklahoma. It's going to be there's going to be some hoops to go through to get that changed. They've tried to lock that in pretty tight, but I believe it can be done. And if for families and just working class folks, you remove the taxes from the groceries on a family, that results in a decent amount of change every month. That's something that people can see, and people can say, hey, do we really need all these taxes? Because I don't believe that we do. We're just spending money left and right. I can't remember how much we spent on rebranding the Oklahoma logo and things like that. That's not what this is 2020. That's not what we need. We need to, the folks in the Capitol need to be spending the very least amount and trying to be efficient with what they have, instead of going above and beyond and trying to spend more and more and more. And that's one thing that it kind of resonates with the folks around here, is that we don't need to keep on spending like that. Just keep the government to a small scale and give our folks back the wages that they made.
One of the big things for me that I remember growing up, this is like 2014, like my last year in high school, they were like, I remember our teachers asking, like sending letters to parents and stuff for money or for packets of paper, because there wasn't enough in the school budgets for paper and stuff. The same year, they were trying to remodel the Capitol building. Instead of they cut the education to remodel the fucking Capitol building.
Yes. Yep. And the lottery was supposed to go to education, and somehow that all didn't make it there.
Oh man, that's mysterious.
Yeah. That's there's a lot of mysteries going on there. And
what you pointed out is something I feel like a lot of people should be pointing out as a libertarian, is that with less taxes, not only is that less money going to the government, more money to the people, but it forces the government to be efficient and less spending on, willy-nilly stuff.
Yes, exactly. To go with your thing there, school choice has come up in Oklahoma. And, that's something that if you look at how much money we spend on per child, how much money we spend, if the family's got that money, they could send their kids to a very nice private school,
Oh yeah.
And so that just shows some of the inefficiencies, that why is it costing this much to send kids to public school when that private school would be less? And and my answer to that is that it's not getting down to the individual local schools. It's not getting down to the teachers. It's being kind of sopped up by the administration and some of the high level folks there. In part, not entirely. Yes, 9,000. Thanks, Jay. $9,000 a year per kid.
Isn't it useful to have around?
Yes, he is.
When he's not busy being a sadist, he's pretty great.
He helps me out on the weekends, door knocking and stuff as well. So I appreciate all his help. But yeah, $9,000, you could send your kid to a very nice private school. That just doesn't make any sense. That people are being taxed. They're taking less home in their wages to spend more to send your kid to a school that shouldn't really cost that much, you know? And the other thing I get into a little bit here is that things change, and we can't we can't think that the same way that I grew up and went to a brick and mortar school, that's the only way to do it. There's people that homeschool. There's people that whether they send them to a religious school or a charter school or whatever. There, especially with the internet access, there's a lot of different ways that kids can be educated, and I don't feel like there's one right way or one wrong way. To think that the way that I grew up and the way that I went to school is the only way is very narrow-minded. I think there's a lot of, we need to be open to new ways to educate our kids, and and down the road there's going to be more and more opportunities, I believe, as well.
That's a really big thing for me with the Libertarian Party at the moment, is like, this is kind of like prime time. Well, it was prime time. We've already been a few months into it, but it's prime time for talking about like homeschooling, private schooling, stuff like that. Whenever you're having to send your kids and they've got these dividers between each other and they have to wear face masks and stuff like that, depending on the school district.
Yep.
And on top of that, we just had this big exposure thing about all this political indoctrination within the public education systems, teaching critical race theory from like fucking kindergarten, which is ridiculous. And then, moreover, not only is that god awful, but then Donald Trump talks about having, well, we're going to put our own propaganda in place and talk about how great America is. And then people were cheering for that. I was so angry with all these right-wing motherfuckers talking about how great Donald Trump is because he gets to put in their own propaganda. That defeats the purpose entirely.
Have you seen the Facebook ads for that?
And then they're like, oh, wait, it's our indoctrination now. Yay!
Yeah, well, no, you hit it right on the head there too. And that's where we do have an opportunity as libertarians, because you see everything that happens on the left and on the right, but when they get into power, and then it's okay. If Trump wants to create red flag laws and ban bump stocks, well, that's not such a big deal. But if Obama did it, oh god, it'd be the end of the world.
One of my favorite stories about that, I think it's like a Reddit meme at this point, but basically there was a gun show in Texas, and the previous year they had sold bump stocks as one of their raffle prizes and stuff. So anyway, this guy goes up there to interview the gun show host again in 2020, and he's like, hey, I'm just checking out your gun show and everything, and I was curious what you guys are doing for the raffle. Are you guys raffling bump stocks this year? He says, well, no, those are banned. And the guy is just like, who banned them? And it was supposed to be like a big Trump 2020 rally gun show thing and everything. Oh, man, delicious. I love it.
But no, that's unfortunately that's kind of a little microcosm of what it's turned into, is that when we have the power, when we have the chair, then we're going to force our ideals on you. When the other party gets up here, then we're going to force our ideals on you. And that's really, way back when I became a libertarian, I'm like, why do we have to do that? Yeah, I have no problem with people that live different ways.
Hate voting.
Yep. And I'm like, no, why do I have to choose one or the other? That's not how life works. That's not, I don't need to be forced into that. I can make my own decisions. We all have a brain. We can all, make our own choices. There can be multiple ways to go through life. Why does it have to be this or this, And that's one of the things, and that's one of the things, just me personally, that's always bothered me. When there's one group of people that tries to tell other people, you have to do this. Well, why? Yeah, sometimes I feel like they kind of get off on telling other people what to do. And I'm like, why? Why do you need to do that? Just let them do what you want, what they want to do. Why does it bother you? Mind your own business and go about your life. What I do might not be exactly what everybody else wants to do, but I've got no qualms with that. That's fine.
It's like, how dare you ask why?
Yeah.
One of my favorite things is this comedian said this. Unfortunately, I can't remember which one. It's kind of been passed around the circle so much. but it has to do with homosexuality. Like
Mhm.
like I remember whenever that was like a big deal, like 2008 and stuff like that, and first making that legal everywhere. And one of these comedians was making the point, like, the only time you should really care about two people being homosexuals and like what they're doing in their bedroom is if they're doing it on your front yard. Otherwise, you really
True.
shouldn't care about like
True.
what's going on in their bedroom.
Exactly. Yeah.
You
Yep.
don't know what
Yep.
you're doing in your bedroom.
Yep, exactly. Why do you care that there's millions of people in this country, millions of ways to live your life, millions of ways to do what you want. If there's something that makes you happy, and to be honest, I like to say sometimes is that I, I don't like to see anyone's values forced on another's group, even if those values are mine. I don't want my values forced on somebody else because that I might change. If I saw that, I'd probably change.
Right.
I don't. That just it's something that drew me to libertarianism way back when. That's something that just bothers me. That we don't need to tell everybody how to live. Just that's not the way this country was formed. Everybody can do their own thing, and we don't have to worry about how everybody wants to live. That's I don't know. That's the way I see. Unfortunately, a lot of other people think that we have to go down this path or this path, and I don't need any path.
I mean, one of my favorite things to do on a personal level is talk to people. Like I'm a agnostic, leaning like atheist.
Sure.
And it wasn't always that way, but one of my favorite things to do on a personal level is to help people that are questioning their faith of Christianity to like reestablish their faith. I do not think it is my job to like destroy their faith, but I see atheists
Sure.
all the times and other agnostics bringing people down and like mocking people for having faith and stuff. I don't think that's the way to do it. Like,
No.
Let them have the conversation with them, be the devil's advocate for sure, but never try to bring people down from, their ideals and principles and stuff like that. What are you getting out of that? That's some sadistic level of satisfaction, if there is any to be had. You should be willing to lift your fellow human beings up, and there's not enough people doing that. I think too many people live in the Twitter world where they're having, arguments with everybody, and the point of life at this point is just how many good hits can you have.
Yeah. If you're able to say something witty and you own this person or whatever, which
own the libs.
Which,
if you show up saying you're a Nazi, though, I'm gonna make you feel bad about it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm all right with that. but
the own the libs thing and everything, it is out of hand. I've gotten to the point where I literally cannot stand debate, like theory debate or anything like that. I have absolutely no patience for it, and I end up just like walking off and doing something else.
Yeah,
because
I
it
do the
has
same.
no purpose. All it does, I mean, like, it's not going to convince the other people. It's one of you, both of you are going to feel like you won at the end because people are so fucking retarded now. They can't actually have a regular conversation and take into consideration what the other person is saying. So what's the fucking point anyways?
Can you imagine that
the amount
situation?
of time and energy spent on those fucking bullshit things these days that people do. Imagine what we could have done during that amount of time.
Oh,
Can you imagine
yeah.
that situation though? Like you're having a conversation with something, like a debate with somebody, and they're like, "Actually, you know what? You've made a valid point. I have changed my mind. I'm voting."
I was just gonna say that. Have you ever seen that? If you ever see that, screenshot that to
once. I think Mike and I would definitely just keep arguing with people on Twitter, but it's never happened.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're having a regular chill conversation, I've seen people change their minds during those. Or be I don't understand that. I've got to understand more about that and then go off to research and shit. But if you're debating and arguing, they're not going to feel inclined to do that.
Yeah.
You know who's a master at that stuff, though? Kevin Hobby. I don't know if you've seen his conversations.
He's very good.
He has a patience of saints. I mean, it is ungodly.
That's probably how he can put up with us.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
Somehow, a while back, I got involved in a conversation. You guys familiar with Eric July? And he went off on his thing about these roads. And so I posted a couple comments and a couple memes out there. And it seems like every 3 or 4 months, I mean, these have got like 20, 30,000 views or something like that. All of a sudden the socialists grab a hold of it, and they get every three or 4 months. And next thing you know, I wake up and my Twitter's all blown up with people commenting back and forth. And the funny thing is that, most of it, by this time it's so old that I just don't mess with it. But, you could get involved with it and go back and forth. And they actually hated the libertarian, standpoint of, keeping everything private and things like that. And then I throw something out there as like, okay, you might not agree with this, but how do you feel about bringing the troops back and ending the drug war? Oh, well, yeah, I'm cool with that. And then everybody's done. Then it's like, well, I didn't come here to agree with you. I just want to fight with you. And so, and it's like, well, as a libertarian, the nice thing is that there's probably a couple issues that you agree with me, right on there. And well, they don't want to talk about that. They'd rather get into a big argument. But
like Mike and I try to find middle grounds, whenever we're having conversations and stuff, but 9 times out of 10, we're usually just pissing off both sides.
Than when I'm typing. Like, if I get into a fucking voice chat with a bunch of people who are of a different, either left or right, I can talk to them. But like in text, oh my God, I have a really hard time with people who want to just argue. If people want to talk, I'm cool, but
yeah.
What I love is if you meet with anti-authoritarians, though, I've never had I've had like debates with them, but I've never had arguments with them. At the end of the day, we can all agree the state fucking sucks.
Oh, sure, yeah.
From there. And I don't agree with your economic policies, but we can settle that whenever we dismantle the state.
Yep. Yeah. No, it is. There are certain things you find some solid ground. In fact, there was one time one of the socialists were trying to get after me there, and I kind of made the point. I said, well, hey, if the Republicans and the Democrats were doing their job, you probably wouldn't be interested in socialism, would you? And he kind of said, well, that's a good point right there. and I'm like, so I said, we're both on the same side as far as we realize there's a problem. Now we're taking different approaches to solving that problem. But I said, I got to give it up that, you do understand there's a problem, and it'd worry me more. You're looking into other avenues, even if I'm polar opposite of the way direction you're heading, but it'd worry me more if you just blindly voted left, Republican or Democrat, and thought that somehow that was going to fix things. At least you understand there is a problem. And he came back and said, yeah, that's probably the best, the best, or the polar opposite of socialism there. That at least you're acknowledging it there. And so, anyway.
So here's my question. Like, how do you plan on winning this election? And do you still need things? Are you working on certain things? Like, what's
we're coming down to the end. There's only a couple weeks left here now. I'm still going out knocking on doors. I'm ordering more door hangers. I've got a handful of folks meeting with me pretty much every Saturday, and I'm going to start going out in between there as well, trying to hit up some of the areas. It's difficult in my region because it's not like a big city where you can just walk, block to block to block. Yeah, it gets rural, but we do have some small towns, and I've been hitting up Choctaw. We'll hit Choctaw again this weekend here on Saturday. Shawnee's one that we've hit in the past few times, and just trying to hit up the small towns, get my picture out there, and talk to. We had last Saturday. We had a great Saturday in Shawnee. I talked to a lot of people that were really receptive to our message, and put out a few signs out there. And so that's kind of the way I'm doing. I've put a few Facebook ads out there. I try and let people know that, hey, this is as grassroots as it gets. I'm doing everything on my own with the help of some other libertarians that have been great, some family and friends, things like that. I'm not backed by a corporation or an organization. I'm doing this with small donations from individuals. I built my own billboard off I-40 in my goat pasture. So it's it's a do-it-yourself campaign right here.
How can you
And
not vote for a guy with a goat pasture?
I'm actually kind of excited about both the goat pasture and the fact that like it's in this particular area because I didn't know it was this area that you were running out of. I actually
sure.
like know a few people over in that area and go harass about it.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep. Yeah, no, I'm right off I-40 here I'm in Newalla, so I'm kind of smack dab in between the folks up in Choctaw and Luther, and then out to Shawnee, McLeod, Bethel Acres, that area. It's small town folks here, but like I said, we talked about it earlier, that libertarian ideas are really what they all have is that they want to have a small government, fiscal responsibility, that just kind of let us do our thing out here in the country and kind of live our lives the way we see fit.
Right.
And so far I've met,
Sounds
you
like
know, it,
really nice.
it's a new experience for myself here, since this is the first time I am running, but I met some great people, and everybody's been, really friendly, willing to talk about things. I like to bring up, hey, if you have any questions, in any district, in any campaign, there's questions or concerns or issues that not everybody is aware of. And that just this weekend, a couple folks brought up a couple things that, hey, I'm worried about this or I'm worried about that. And they're things that don't make the news, little smaller issues like that, that it's good. You're only going to get that information when you go out and talk to people. And so that's really, unfortunately, with the COVID and the pandemic and all this, I haven't been able to get out as early. So I'm trying to play a little bit of catch up on this. My thought process this summer was, well, once the pandemic's over, then we'll really start hitting it hard. I had no idea it was going to linger and linger and linger. And so, a few weeks back, we just decided to say, hey, we're going to go out there, and everybody's been super receptive to us,
Do you feel like you're at in disadvantage to like the major parties because of the COVID stuff, whereas they had like lots of money and outreach and stuff like that? Um,
Some, yes. I mean, yeah, if you had the money to do, say, a lot of mailers or, online, yeah, I've done a little bit of online stuff. That's reasonably priced, but yeah, a little bit. But I also wonder too that when the pandemic hit, if there maybe would have been more candidates that would have declared, um, April was the deadline in Oklahoma to declare for any races, and that was right around the time when everything hit. And I do feel like that some people, my race probably wasn't affected by it, but some other races were, where people decided, hey, you know what? I'm just going to hold on and ride this 2020 out and see what happens. And, maybe I'll, in 4 years, or if it's in the House, maybe 2 years, that they run at that point. It's honestly, it's really hard to say. I don't know. I don't know if the positives and the negatives on that one with 2020. It's a little bit of a crapshoot.
well, has the LP helped you any? Like, how helpful have they been
Oh,
towards your
yeah,
campaign?
yep. Yeah, really, really helpful. They've been promoting my events, my door knocking, stuff like that. I've been endorsed by the LP Radical Caucus, which was great. They made a donation as well, which was awesome. And so trying
Nice.
to get in my, yeah, and I've met some of those folks. Those are really great folks over there. And so I've gotten to know some more people, gotten my face out there. They've forwarded my Twitter and my Facebook posts, things like that, which is cool. I always get a kick out of that when you put something out there and someone else runs with it and says, hey, this is the way I feel about things. This is what this guy's talking about, and you get a lot more hits, a lot more eyeballs on your campaign, and at this point, that's kind of what we're looking to do. It's a smaller region or a district a little bit, but I think we're going to do all right.
So, before we go into closing this thing out and doing our lightning round and stuff like that, I'm really curious as to, because we all kind of met there. What did you think about the Maj 2 Ray event?
Oh, I thought that was great. I think people could benefit from that. I'd love to hear. That one was based. On an event where you're going to do shooting at towards the end, this and that. I would love to hear him speak more honestly. He's a great speaker, and I would have liked to hear him a little bit more, a little bit more from him. But no, it was great information, and I'd like to see more people attend that, more people be aware of what he has going on there, because he's got some great information, and he's just interesting to listen to as well.
I was very glad to see so many people from the LP there. I was very excited that so many of our people were there to show Maj support and stuff like that. And that kind of goes back to the whole reason Mike and I are here is because of Maj 2 Ray, actually.
Okay.
The way that he was treated by the National Libertarian Party and kind of just tossed aside and then kicked out as a keynote speaker and stuff like that. We dedicated ourselves to getting Nick Sarwalk kicked out of the party.
Gone now though, so
yeah, he's gone. So
you check that off.
Yeah. But so it was really exciting to see him in person and stuff, but it was very pleasing to see how much support that he got by the little L's. Essentially, this is what I was getting at. And
sure.
There seems to be a huge difference, and we've talked about this many times, between the big L's, people involved in the upper ends of the Libertarian Party politics, and then people like yourself and Todd Gopian and stuff like that, the little L's trying to actually get things done and be boots on the ground type of deal. I mean, what do you have to say as far as the Libertarian Party goes as a whole? Because it seems I'm pretty happy with the Oklahoma Libertarian Party on the local level, but national it seems to be a mess.
It can be a little bit all over national.
When I talk to other people and ask them how the LP is helping them with their fucking campaigns, a lot of times their answers are things like, well, they're not.
Yeah. And I did have a few Oklahoma folks here in the LP that put in a good word for me with the Radical Caucus there, which they were super receptive. So that was awesome. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying there though, and I try not to get too hung up on some of the stuff at the top level of the LP. I mean, that is what it is. That's not. I kind of look at it as
I loathe the national LP personally. Yeah. I don't even acknowledge it as a fucking thing.
I kind of look at it as everybody kind of needs to find their place on where they fit. Me personally, I don't fit at the national in that regards. I fit as, like you said, the lower level, the boots on the ground, trying to accomplish stuff because I live in Oklahoma. That's where I'm going to focus my time and what I want to see change here in Oklahoma. I can't, what happens at a federal level.
Change is going to happen anyways. It's going to happen in the.
It needs to start here anyway. You're right.
On the ground.
Yep.
It's where the focus needs to be.
Yes. Yep.
And it's great to see more and more people running. There seem to be a lot of libertarians in Oklahoma running for a lot of things, which is really encouraging.
Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. No. It's awesome. And I think I said that too. That we in Pottawatomie County, you're going to have more libertarians on your ballot than you will Democrats. That you're going to have, which is probably a first for probably anywhere in Oklahoma, to be honest. And that's kind of where I feel like I fit, is the boots on the ground. Let's make changes here. And one of the things I bring up is, what, I can't. That's not who I am. That's not where I fit in. Is at a federal or a national level. I'd like to just stay here in Oklahoma and work with things here and make changes. While they might be baby steps, they might be small steps at first, and just kind of snowball along with that. That's kind of where I fit into it. Is
not small steps, they're foundations.
Foundation. There you go. I'm good with either one, but I'll go. Foundation sounds good. That's kind of where I fit in. I always talk about, hey, let's look at what's the freest state in this country. Well, there are polls out there, and they take different factors into account. And I always say, hey, my goal is for Oklahoma to be the top, or at least pretty darn close to the top of being one of the freest states in the country. And that means, the least amount of taxes, the least amount of laws as far as restricting things, allowing you to live the way you want to live. And we've got a little ways to go on that. But I feel that's more tangible. That's something that I can help out with. I can work with other folks here in the local, the OKLP, and we can accomplish some of those things. We can get candidates to be in all kinds of races here, make ourselves known. The federal, the national level, that's a little farther out there. That's a little different thing. That's that we need people there as well, but that's not where I fit in anyway. I'd like to stay here in Oklahoma and work on it, being one of the freest states in the country.
I think that's
constitutional carry.
exactly
Yay!
where it should be.
Yep,
Yeah.
you got to have that to be anywhere close.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Texas.
Okay, so like if you could plug anything right now. Well, hold on. First off, if people want to help you, how do they do that?
Oh, sure. My website is sadlerforoksenate.com. And from there, you can donate right on my website. You can reach there's links to my Twitter feed, my Facebook, my email if you have any questions. Everything's on the website there if you need to get in touch. If you follow my social media, Facebook, we've got events that come up where we're doing door knockings, things like that. If you want to get in touch with me, that's where you would start at sadlerforoksenate.com.
Sounds good. What were you doing next, Mike?
I was gonna ask do you have any like causes, or like if you could pick any like cause or anything that's going on or anything right now that you could plug right now, what would it be?
I don't have any. I've got several issues. I don't want to say causes or exactly. We talked about the tax exempt groceries. I'm big on criminal justice reform. We've got a question coming up on our ballot as well. Those are some of the things that I think that we can make changes in the short term to as you were saying, to create the foundation with and build from that. We have to have a few causes or things that are tangible that we can fix and build upon that if we're going to be one of the freest states in the country.
Sounds good to me. Do you want to do the?
We'll start our lightning round here. We always try to do it as a lightning round where we are trying to be
always fuck it up.
Yeah, we always are like, oh, tell us more.
We'll try, but no promises. Like we've collected these questions over a period of time, so they're all kind of random from like different people in our audience. So,
what is your favorite movie?
Shawshank Redemption, I'll say.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a solid choice, yeah.
Okay, what's your favorite book?
Why Government Doesn't Work by Harry Brown.
Also another solid choice. Okay. When you were growing up, what was your favorite cartoon?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to say Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo. Classic. Okay.
Okay. So what is your favorite healthy snack?
My favorite what is that?
Your
healthy
favorite healthy snack.
Oh, healthy snack. I'm kind of a snacker, but I eat healthy and
not many healthy.
Let me say I picked up a trail mix. Let me say trail mix because I did pick up a bag of that. Yeah, yep. However, I like the stuff that's probably not that healthy because I buy this. I look at it, which has the most amount of chocolate in it, and that's what I buy. So
you're a chocolate guy.
Yeah, yep.
Okay. So either what is your favorite mixed drink or what is your favorite soft drink?
I'm kind of a bourbon guy. Whether you mix it with Coke or you mix it with 7-Up, I'm good either way.
What's your favorite bourbon?
I don't get too exotic on that. I've got a limited budget for my bourbon here, so I'll stick with Jack Daniels, Jim Beam, Evan Williams, stuff like that.
Okay.
All right, have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons?
You know what? I actually had. It was a long, long time ago. It was back in the early to mid '80s. My my friends, my neighbors there, they had the whole set with multi-sided dice and all that stuff. I played it with them I didn't play with them for a real long time, maybe a year or so. I played it with them. We used to play on our school bus on the way to school. Well, not that same game, but
Okay. Man, you make it sound like you were a casual a whole year. That's more than most people have played in their life.
oh no. Well, I think we played like every day on our way to this. I had like an hour
Still
bus
have your
ride.
wizard hat around here, don't you?
He's got
Give me
his
5 minutes, I'll
wizard
find it.
hat somewhere around there. Yeah, I knew it. He's a closet nerd.
No, we had an hour ride to our school. We rode on the bus, and so they would bring in this Dungeons and Dragons, and I can't even hardly remember how it all worked. But they had a pad of paper, and you'd roll it, and yeah, we probably played it for a full year. Every an hour a day, 5 days a week.
Well, Max runs a D&D game on Tuesdays.
Okay,
I'm just saying.
but now it's all different, isn't it? Because it's online, and so you don't have to do the
I had
multi-sided
to
dice.
learn. Yeah, you can do it
There's not as
online
much
now.
math and stuff like
It was
that.
confusing at first, but it was actually pretty easy once I got
probably a
past
little
the
easier, yeah.
boomer rage. It was really weird. We've ruined the lightning round already. All right, it's your turn, Paxton.
Well, I think he's
Ask
the first
something.
person that's ever said that they played D&D.
Oh,
No,
nobody's
he's
ever upset.
not.
Nobody's admitted to this.
There have been a couple of people who have played before, but
I don't think so. I think you're
it's
making
very
it up.
rare. Yeah, no, it was like who was it that has played D&D?
Doesn't matter. What's your favorite like Netflix, Hulu, or like TV series in general that you enjoy watching?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't typically. Well, this is all right. I'm going to go one direction and then turn you the other way. I don't typically get involved with a lot of these shows. I don't series and stuff like that. I'm a big. I can't even hardly read a book that's a fictional book. I have to have a true life story. So, however, there's some. What's the show on? I think it's WeTV where the people just love after lockup. My wife and I, we watch that show about the folks that just get out of jail and the folks they meet that are all dead set on marrying them the day they walk out of there. It's kind of a train wreck you can't look away from.
Oh my God, that
That does sound awful.
It does.
Pretty. Wow.
I didn't know I was
every
going to be talking
couple
about
has,
that
like, a
tonight, but
show,
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
It's interesting because we'll talk about them like like their neighbors next door. Well, I think so and so really should do this, and spend way too much time thinking about them.
Oh yeah.
Oh
I
my
think it's your
God.
turn, Mike.
What do you do to de-stress when you're really, really stressed out?
Typically I'm pretty laid back. I don't get too stressed, but I like to get up early in the mornings and hit the gym, or if it's late in the evening, maybe have a bourbon.
Are you
combination between the two works pretty good.
why not both?
not
Are you
both?
a dog or a cat person?
Dog person, yep. However, we have both. We do have both.
What kind
We
of dog?
have.
You're cat tolerant.
Yeah, I'm cat tolerant. We've got cats that, we live out. We've got an acreage out here, and we've got.
See,
Oh,
they're good out in the
6
country.
cats.
Like, you can't ever have too many barn cats.
Yeah, no. So we've got 6 barn cats, or I guess they're really porch cats now. And we've got, what do we have? We have a Great Pyrenees that we raise goats out here. So we've got goats. We've got a Great Pyrenees dog that kind of watches
I
the
want us
goats.
to get goats.
But then we also have, what do we have? 4 Chihuahuas.
Oh my
Okay,
God,
I have a
hate
story.
those dogs. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, we have a story here about the Chihuahuas. We have my wife picks up. When you live out here, we're out in the country, but we're on the edge of town. So unfortunately, people drop their animals a lot of times.
Yeah, and you
And
end up adopting them.
Yeah, my wife has a big heart, and so she tries to take them in.
No wonder
and,
you've got so many chihuahuas.
yeah, well, here's what happened. And so we had 2 female chihuahuas. The neighbor had a dog that snuck over here, and next thing you know, both chihuahuas are pregnant. And not only did that, I'm not saying the dog just snuck over to our property. The dog snuck over to our property, snuck in our backyard, and then snuck in the dog door into our house to find our chihuahuas.
That's a booty call. That's
Yeah,
not a
yeah, there you go.
That's a booty call. That they probably called that dog over. They were like, "Hey, baby."
It texted him over, and so next thing you know, we got 2 pregnant chihuahuas, and I think one had 3 and one had 4, so we had like 7. I'm
Oh
probably
my
off, but we
God!
had
You
like
had
7
a
baby
gaggle
pups.
of chihuahuas.
Yeah, yep, and we got rid of all of them except for we did keep 2. We've got a 6-year-old, and he was pretty dead set on keeping a couple of them there. So
Yeah. See,
so
we adopted a cat off the street, and she was pregnant.
oh
And now we've got a fucking gaggle of kittens everywhere. By the way, anybody within a reasonable amount of driving that wants one of these kittens, I'm doing interviews for these kittens. I will bring it fucking to you. We're about to get them fixed and stuff. Just take the
Yeah,
kittens. I'll
we're
bring
in
them to Oklahoma. You want one?
No, we're trying. We have 4 kittens we've been trying to get rid of, and we're getting the adult cats fixed as well, so that we don't have this problem again.
How did you and your wife meet?
There's another good. Yeah, that's a good question. You remember the website MySpace?
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
man, back
Yep,
in the
yep.
day. junior high.
We met on MySpace, and
Yes.
we went out for a date, and kind of that was that. My wife was worried because I was late, but she's very much on time. I am always late to everything, so that was she's had to get used to that. Hey, I'm running on Sadler time here a little bit, and we'll get there when we get there. And
I don't know how to be partially late or like I'm either like really fucking late or I am really early. I can't ever be on time.
yeah. Somehow I don't get to the real early part. I get to the if somebody said they're having an event at 7, between 7 and 8's acceptable, right? Yeah, I can roll in about that. Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yep.
All right, here's my question. What is your favorite leisure activity?
Oh, leisure activity.
In Minecraft, it must be.
It must be you know what? I've got a
No.
6-year-old who is he's all about video games. He's all into Minecraft and and he will just lock into these games. Well, not Minecraft, but some of them he would just lock into them until he beats. I think it's taking years off his life because he gets so stressed about them. But he will lock into them. But leisure activity for me, I'm a big college football fan, and we've got a little pond here, so we go fishing on a pretty regular basis.
I
I
love
like doing a little
fishing.
fishing. Yeah, it's kind of nice when
It's
we
really
we just happen to kind of luck into this that the property next to us has a pond, and so we're kind of buying it, so we don't need a fishing license, and we can just go down there whenever and catch a couple
All right.
fish.
I'm about to lose you a lot of votes. I hope you're prepared for this.
Okay.
shit.
Are you OU or OSU?
Well, now you got me. I'll answer any of the hot button questions, man. You really stuck me.
There you go. Just fucking jab him in the kidney.
And I shouldn't say. And I've told a couple people this, and I've told them don't tell anybody now. But no, my wife's gone to both OU and OSU, so she's taking classes at both. She's an OU fan, so we probably really follow OU more than OSU. However, my father-in-law is a big OSU fan, so we've got a little mix there. But the honest truth is, I grew up in Iowa, so I'm an Iowa State fan. But nobody hates Iowa State's typically bad, so nobody hates them. So hopefully, I don't lose too many votes. So
can't have a grudge on Iowa.
Good neutral answer.
Yeah. Yep. Did I cover all my
Same.
bases there?
That's safe.
Man, I've
That's
never
safe.
seen you so nervous. Gee.
Yeah.
We go through all these things and we're like, what are you thinking? We hate cops and all this other shit. And then all of a sudden we get to the fucking
You
sports
get to
teams and you
hey,
start
people
to
in my
sweat.
district, they take this serious.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of people do actually, though. It's cute.
Yeah. Well, it's good fun too. I like
It's
talking.
a weird, endearing thing.
Yeah, but even if you're fans of opposing teams, you can get together and have a couple drinks and talk about, hey, I remember when this happened. I remember when this happened. It's kind of cool, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's the last of the
Cool.
questions. So, do you want to do the closing out, Mike?
I sure do. Thank you guys. Well, first off, thank you for coming and talking to us and letting us ask you all these weird questions and shit.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate you guys having me on.
It was great to
Anytime.
get to sit down and talk to you. I mean, like, we got to meet before, but we didn't actually get a chance to like really talk. So this
No,
was
yeah.
an absolute pleasure. And maybe when you're not so busy running for Senate, we'll be able to chat again sometime in the
Oh yeah,
future.
yep. Anytime. I'll
Definitely keep us
talk to y'all
updated
anytime.
on how things are going and stuff like that.
Will do.
And we'll definitely let you guys know what happened. Like, we've got a lot of people to talk about after these upcoming elections, whether or not people get through it or not. You know, I'm hoping for people. I'm hoping that we can get some like governmental praxis going on before it's too late.
Yes. Yep.
And I mean, like, I feel personally like if we get too much further along, they start taking too much more, it's going to be beyond what we can do on the court floors. And so
Getting the
y'all
genie
may be
back in the
our,
bottle.
yeah, y'all may be our last y'all at the foundations, those of you at the foundations across our nation may be our last line of defense.
Yep.
Our Obi-Wan, you are our last hopes. Obi-Wans. I don't know. Anyways, thank you guys for coming to see this. If you liked it, please like it. Please share so that we can get this around, especially if you guys are in Oklahoma. Get this around to all your Okie buddies and stuff. And if you like what we do here and you want to help us out to do more, to get better equipment, to do more coverage, be able to travel more and do things like that, get down in our subscribe star link or hit up our Cointree if you want to do the not dirty white money stuff, because we take crypto.
Cool.
Oh gracious. Get down to his website and check him out and help him too. And obviously come to our voice chat and come join our conversation. And if you don't have money to give, come volunteer some time. I feel like I'm leaving something out. I'm really bad at the fucking endings. I hope
You're
you
bad at the
guys
intro,
enjoyed
extro.
yourselves. It's
You're doing
basically
great,
my
man.
stumble moment. You guys, we'll be seeing you really soon because we've been doing a daily show every morning. So we'll see you in the morning at 6:30 sharp. We're going to talk about Jordan Peterson being back and what that means to us. Like, you guys care. Hope you guys take care and that you're safe and that you stay free. Until then, this Mad LiberTEA Time is adjourned. And then
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna have to like